But I think the main things is at the end of the day, volleyball is volleyball. It's in the same 9x9 court, and the rules are the same. So we. Is that on the back of your shirt?
Yeah, it's on the back of the
You
shirt.
did. A little free shout out for you. And it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the net. You need to still execute to the best of your ability if you want a chance to win.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the 9x9, the 81 square meters of the best volleyball on the internet. My name is Everett Delorme, joined as always by Mr. Rob St. Clair in Chicago. We were together this weekend, but we're now back in our respective chairs at home. Welcome. This is episode 52? Damn, we've done a few of these, Rob. We've been going.
That's 52 episodes. That's not even including all the VNL, all the like First Point Collegiate Challenge in Austin, not all the World Championship shows. So
stuff,
or there was a lot of shows.
Yeah, or the special that we did with Eric Soji on Saturday to preview the Champions League that starts tomorrow. So make sure you guys go check out with that. Obviously, it's Eric Shoji. That should be enough right away to just go back into our last video and check that out. Just to get ready for the Champions League tomorrow, that will be. But before we do that, Rob, let's jump into what has been another eventful week in the Superlega. Just look at some of these results. Of course, Modena losing to Perugia, not that surprising, although Ingapeth had a pretty good game. They just could not pass the ball. Padova winning the battle of the basement, and things are starting to get looking very, very interesting for Toronto now because Sienna, with their second week in a win in a row, who would have thought they would have won 2 in a row at the beginning of the season? They take down Cisterno, who at the beginning of the season was surprising everyone. That's a team who's literally beat some of the best and lost to the best. Verona bounces back with an unreal game against Milano, who suffered their first loss of the season. Lube falls to Trentino, and of course, Piacenza just continues to be disappointing, losing to Monza. But man, Monza is running, and my boy Stephen Marr, he's the one who should be on the thumbnail instead of Arthur Schwartz. No slight to Schwartz, but that's 2 straight MVPs for my boy Marr. Rob,
I was looking for photos, and the photos that were available, like the one good one of Arthur Schwartz. I mean, this one, yeah, it's on the thumbnail. It was just too good to pass up. I was looking for photos of Marr because of how well he played. It was fun, Ever, because you and I were watching that game and Trentino versus Lube on Saturday together. We were just kind of follow along with it there.
We suffered through it.
We suffered through it for a lot of reasons. Most notably the stream that we did the night before,
which you have to be a member. If you didn't get to see it off the hop with the tag at everyone on the Discord, which was hilarious. We broke rule number 1 right off the bat, which I love. You're gonna have to be a member to go check that out. But from what I've told, it was entertaining. I haven't been able to bring myself up to go back to watch it just yet.
Yeah, I haven't gone back and watched the drunk stream we did from Ottawa, and I'm probably not gonna go back and watch the one from Austin either. Just gonna let that out there on the internet. And yeah, you've got to be a member here on the YouTube channel to go back and check that one out. But it was definitely fun at the time from what I remember. But let's dive in here a little bit more, because Piacenza, there's still reason to put asterisks on all their dumb losses because they still don't have either of their starting outside hitters. So still no Lucarelli. We know he's out for a while with a hand injury, but still no Yoandi Leal. And the weird part about that is that he's continuing to dress and warm up for these games. And I have no idea. I haven't read anywhere about any injury. Like, we can assume that he's been hurt because he hasn't played since, I think, before Christmas. But I don't know what the nature of his injury is. I haven't read it anywhere, and his team misses him badly. You must have
missed that day on the Discord then, because there was some rumors floating around the Discord. Apparently, he got into a bar fight.
Okay, I heard about that, but I mean, is that? Are you going to continue to lose while you keep him out for a reason like that?
I mean, maybe a broken hand. Like, does that constitute, like a little bit of bruising in there? Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, it is a weird situation because you see him there, you see him giving information. As you said, he's warming up, but just not getting the call. So yeah, last we heard were rumors and conjecture in the Discord, which, we can never fully trust, but it's
actually a lot of good info that comes out of the Discord. But when it comes to Yoandi Leal fighting against things, there certainly is some precedent for that. But seriously, I don't actually know what's going on with him. And I mean, there's only so much you can do with Luka Basic and Francesco Recine as your starting outside hitters to try and stay afloat. especially against
Yeah.
a team like Monza, who's playing like one of the hottest teams in the league right now.
100%. And if you look at the way they're distributing their offer, you've got 4 different guys in double digits for this team right now. They're blocking fantastic as a team. I know, and I said it from early on. This is a gritty team. They're built to grind you out, and that's why I think that they're in it for the long haul. I think without having Kachopa in there, bringing in Jan Zimmerman was the perfect move. And while this team's had its ups and downs, I really think they're coming together right now. You know, it's a good thing you're using Arthur Schwartz as the thumbnail. I think he's really starting to come into his own, which is starting to alleviate some of that. What are we going to do on the right side for Team Canada, which makes me excited for the summertime. But these are 2 different teams and going in different directions right now. And if Leal doesn't come back and Lucarelli is still out, like Piacenza might as well put this season down the drain, because they're going to end up in one of those lower seeds, and then are going to have a much tougher first round.
Yeah, so let's look at the standings really quick because they're absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Monza is all the way up to 6th. Just like 2 weeks ago, we were talking about them not even being in playoff position. Yeah. So they've jumped up a huge amount. Verona, despite beating Milano 3-0, is still out of playoff position by 1 point. Cisterna, despite losing to Sienna, still in playoff position by 1 point. And now look at those 3 teams at the bottom. Padova, Toronto, Sienna, 14, 13, and 12 points respectively. It was so safe to assume. It was so safe to assume that Sienna was going to get relegated just 2 weeks ago. And then out of nowhere, they win 2 huge matches and now are very much alive to stay in the Superlega next year.
Yeah, and I mean, Padova, or no, it's Sienna. They did just suffer a big loss, losing Giulio Pinali to injury for the rest of the season. So we'll have to see how much further their run goes. But both Taranto and Padova this year have been. I've thought Toronto was going to be able to run for it quickly, but I don't know if Tommaso Stefani has been playing recently. Actually,
yeah, he hurt his shoulder last week, and I don't think he played against Padova. Although I will be the first to admit that I did not.
No, they didn't.
Match.
They just had Oleg Antonov went 7 for 18. Lepke was out there balling. He had 20 points, 15 for 32 with 4 blocks and an ace, but no one else on his team even in double digits.
Yeah, they've got this Ekstron kid. I can't remember. He's either like Greek or Norwegian or Finnish or like some weird like obscure European country, and a really young prospect. I remember
European.
I remember doing the show with Tommy Blizzard before the season started, and I was looking through Taranto's roster because they're the most Italian dominated team in the league by far. Like Lepke was going to be their only foreigner in the starting lineup, and just looking through some names, I didn't know who some of these young, like other European country prospects were. But yeah, without Stephanie, Toronto's going to struggle. That's just the way that their team is built up. He's do not
Swedish.
have the depth. He's
but
Swedish.
He's also a 2003.
So that's exactly what I'm saying. You don't just find a 18-year-old Swedish opposite and expect him to carry you through a Superlega season when your starter goes out. Like that's going to be very troublesome for Toronto. And depending on how long it takes Stephanie to come back, they are going to continue to slip down, and they've just got to root against Padova and Sienna jumping over them.
On the plus side, as a biased take right here, I love what I'm seeing from Eric Lepke. We talked about at the beginning of the season how he might be out of a Superlega job because of his play at the World Championships and for Team Canada, and he's done nothing but impress this year. True. Another 20-point performance from him, and I'm sure there's other teams further up the table that are taking note.
Yeah, so we jumped kind of to Padova versus Toronto there, but the more significant result with that one is the effect on the standings and potential relegation. Yeah. But I want to go back to Saturday and 2 of the routinely premier teams in the league, Everett, with Trentino beating Lube Civitanova 3-1. And we talked about when we were chatting with Eric Shoji on Saturday after this game in more of a Champions League context. We noticed that, or you noticed that Lube Civitanova has not won a Superlega game this calendar year.
Yeah, they have been struggling. And I mean, we kind of expected this. This is a young team that just has some weird holes. Zaitsev was the best of them this time, and he was 17 for 38. They hit 42% as a team, but more importantly, they passed 17% perfect. That's just not good enough, especially when you have DeCecco. You need to get the ball to DeCecco. Just get the ball to DeCecco and let him work his magic, right? 17% perfect and only 30% positive is not good enough. So that means you're out of system almost 2/3 of the time.
Marlon Yant got absolutely lit up on the serve. 33 receptions. Next closest was 18. So he was their clear serving target for Trentino, and that worked out well. 15% perfect, 33% positive passing. So good service strategy there from Trentino. Why don't you bring Botolo in at that point? He can't get any worse than that.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well just bring Botolo. He was like Yant was doing decently offensively. He's 12 for 28. So maybe that's it. Like he was one of the better scorers, if you want to call it that. But yeah, I mean, you might as well bring Yant. But I mean, when you look at Nikolov's stats, he's doing half balls, but he's doing ace 5 times.
Terrible.
He's only 11% perfect and 17% positive. So yeah, Lube needs some help in serve receive. They've got some decent arms around the court, but they just don't have it with serve receive. And Chinyeze isn't going to open up the offense in the middle the way that Simone is. Simone, you can, like we've talked about this before, you can push him. His window is way further, whereas Chinyeze, he needs to be led a little bit more. So this offense right now for Lube just isn't working. And this is a team that I can almost see having more and more issues as the season progresses, because I don't think they're going to be able to figure things out anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm curious to see who they play the next couple of weeks. They've dropped all the way down to 4th. They're only 1 point ahead of Piacenza, only 2 points ahead of Monza, and only 4 points ahead of the 9th place team in the league, Verona. Like it's clear, it's pretty clear that there's 2 races going on here as we look at the standings. There's 8 teams fighting for spots 2 through 9. And then there's 3 teams fighting not to get relegated. Like there's going to be one. There's going to be one team that barely misses the playoffs, and there's going to be 2 teams that are going to feel fortunate to survive relegation. There's a pretty clear line there between 9 and 10. And as we look towards the match results on Sunday, the featured match, I mean, in most years would have been Perugia versus Modena. It was the top 2 teams in the league at the time. Now it's 1 versus 3 as Modena, I mean, barely loses a tiebreaker with Trentino. This has to be a Superlega record. It absolutely has to be. I won't dig through the history to clarify this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. This has to be the earliest in the season a team has ever clinched the number 1 seed. Perugia has clinched the number 1 seed in the playoffs with 6 matches to go. That's absolutely crazy. They are 19 points ahead of second place. And with 6 matches left, you can only get 18 points. So that's it. Perugia can rest the starters for 6 straight matches if they wanted to. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, but their bench is a starter in any other team in the league too, right?
Yes, they are.
You go to the bench and you've got either Platnitsky and Semeniuk, and that's what it is. But man, there's 2 reasons for this. First and foremost, this is quite possibly up there with like the Zenit Kazan of the late 2010s, like one of the best teams ever. I mean, obviously you take the best player, you surround him with this generations of best players, and that's what you get. But it's also due to just the absolute crazy inconsistency, just like we talked about from those other 8 teams or 9 teams after them. The fact that the next best team has a 9-7 record is absolutely insane, but it's what has made this Superlega and just that much awesome. Do we want to talk about this one at all, or do we just want to say that Rinaldi got absolutely lit up from the baseline and had Rinaldi must have cried himself to sleep on Sunday because he went 19, got targeted 37 times in a quick, I guess it was 4 sets, so that's still targeted 37 times. He was 3 for 14 on the day. His efficiency was
horrible,
absolutely horrible. He did go 3 aces for 3 errors from the baseline, but in serve receive, man, 19% perfect, only 27% positive. Tough day for Modena.
This is never even going to be close. So somebody's pointing out in the chat, you're not allowed to compare Perugia to Zenit Kazan until they actually win the Scudetto.
He's not wrong, though.
Well, he's not wrong. What team could possibly beat this team in a 5-match series? There is
right now
no way. Absolutely no way. There is
maybe
a team
like Italy or France as the national team.
No way. There is no way. No way is there a team on the planet that can beat Perugia in a 5-match series. Even if Perugia loses 1 match, there is no possible way that you can beat them 3 out of 5 times. There is no way. I would bet my life on that. And there were some pretty ridiculous numbers in this game. Wilfredo Leon, casual 15 for 25, way over 50% efficiency. Perugia actually got some like less than stellar performances. Kamil Semeniuk was not good. Neither was Kamil Rikliski. And it completely didn't matter because they bring in Jesus Herrera off the bench. They bring in Ole Plotnitsky, obviously, off the bench. They recycled in a bunch of middles, and they still pretty convincingly beat what should have been the second best team in the league. There is such a massive drop-off, obviously in the standings, but just in level of play between Perugia and everybody else. And that's even when 3 of their starters don't play well. It's crazy.
I mean, I still think that Perugia's hardest match this season has been in practice. So, yeah, this isn't all that surprising to me. They've just been absolutely unreal, and I don't see anyone in like they've just come so close over the past. Like, honestly, it just feels to me like the Golden State Warriors adding Kevin Durant, being like, we're being that close to being the best team, of all time ever. Let's just add one other superstar and Kamil Semeniuk just to put things overboard. And that's what we're seeing right now. It's just absolutely ludicrous.
And I actually kind of like the way that Anastasi is managing this lineup. I mean, people were talking about Kamil Rikliski as a weakness, which I've been saying literally all of his career. I do not think he is particularly good, but they are managing it correctly. You should start Kamil Rikliski every single game. It's actually pretty similar to, or rather, it's kind of the opposite of Yashimsky Vengil's situation, where I think you should start Boyer every game, and then if he sucks, you bring in Hadrava, who is going to be more predictable in his level of output. Perugia is the opposite. I think you start Rikliski every game because he's generally pretty consistent, and if he's bad, you bring in Herrera and hope that he's better. And this time he was. He went 10 for 14. He was absolutely unbelievable in 2.5 sets. So I actually think
I mean, like for me, I think that Rikliski is just a little bit more consistent in the other areas of his game, especially blocking. He sets up a much better block than Herrera. Herrera is going to be a bully from the baseline, and he's going to bring in some offensive flair. But I mean, there's also, I think there's different mentalities there. Rikliski is a veteran in this league, right? He's won Scudettos before with Lube. He knows how to get it done, whereas Herrera still needs to earn his spot a little bit. That's why I love the dynamic between the two of them.
Yeah, they're very different, and I agree with starting Rikliski every time. But when he's bad, which he was, you bring in the young explosive Cuban lefty off the bench, and it worked out for Perugia. So because of all those options, like Tommy and I previewed going into the year, we think that if you took their 7 bench players and put them in as a Superlega team, they would still make the playoffs, and I'll absolutely stand by that. So as Perugia starts to give the starters a match off here and there the rest of the regular season, which they will, I doubt their level is going to drop that much, to be honest.
No, I mean, I think we might see them lose a game here or two, but at this point, everyone knows it doesn't matter. So,
right.
But do you think? What do you think? Do you think they go for the perfect season? Like, is that like going for the perfect season, like a Canigliano type run? Is it that tantalizing? Like, is it that much? Is it that worth it?
If it were me, I would say no, it's not worth it. You need to prioritize Champions League, and you need to prioritize the playoffs, the Italian playoffs. So you can't just bench everybody because you have to keep your momentum and your level high when meaningful matches do come around, which in Champions League they will. I mean, tomorrow they play Durin in Champions League, and while they're way better than Durin, they've really got to win that match 3-0. So you better believe you're going to see the starters the whole time. Same deal when you get to the Champions League playoffs, but because they've choked so hard in terms of trying to win a Scudetto the last couple of years, I don't think they can afford to shift their priority away from that. The Scudetto must be their priority, maybe even more than Champions League. I think that there's more pressure for them to win a Scudetto than there is to win Champions League. There's virtually no pressure to go undefeated this year. That doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. What matters is them winning the 5 trophies that they can win. They're 2 for 5. Italian Cup, Champions League, Scudetto still on the way. Those have got to be their 3 priorities.
All right, fair enough.
Let's talk about Verona Milano. I think that's.
That's the only one we haven't talked about yet, and that one is interesting because 2 teams who were up into, like, Verona looked like they were going down, Milano looked like they were coming up, and then all of a sudden just 180s by both.
Yeah, we got kind of the Maxim Sapochkov that we saw at the very start of the year for Verona. I think that was a huge difference. 14 for 20 with only 1 error is insane. He was keeping the ball way, way higher. I don't know why it took Stoichev that long to get this into his head, or if he'll continue this level up. But when you are literally 7'4", you don't need to hit the ball downwards. You need to keep the ball as high as you can, hit over the top of people the way that he was doing to start the season. Now here he goes again, avoiding the block the way a guy of that size probably should. Great day attacking from Nomori Keita as well. And because they could chuck high balls to Sapochkov, Keita's terrible serve reception didn't end up mattering that much. But also,
yeah, but he only targeted 11 times.
Exactly. Bad service strategy from Milano. Bad
service strategy. Like, why aren't you going on the worst passer in the league? Probably, right? Gagini isn't like some magician. We've seen some bad numbers from him all year, and they made him look good at 50% perfect and 64% positive, right? Even the Rock was pretty good at 28 and 39. So, man, like, Milano needs to go out there with a different serving strategy and maybe put a little bit more onto it. I don't know, hit the ball a little harder.
And Everett, what did I say last week when we were talking about Milano's turnaround? Remember what I said about the redistribution of their offense?
Yeah.
I said that they were going to Jean Patry less and they were having more success. It's not because Patry is bad. It's because Porro is bad at setting Patry.
Can't set the ball on the right side.
And sure enough, what do we see in the offensive distribution for Milano in this match? Patry gets 30 balls, not very efficient. Next closest is 19. The exact opposite of the thing that made them successful in their recent run. So bad offensive distribution strategy and bad service strategy.
Yeah. This was just, Milano needs to get out of their own way. This one, I don't know, like, who's making that call. Is it Patry who's looking for more balls? Is it Piazza who's getting his own way? Probably. I mean, we all know, he's like number 2 stooge after Stoichev, and now that Bernardi's gone. So this one, it just continues with how unpredictable the season has been.
Very, very, very unpredictable. And speaking of things that are unpredictable, I think I want to talk about Sienna beating Cisterna just a little bit more. I'm looking at the stats because I didn't watch this game. Pedar Dzirlic didn't play sets 3 or 4. If somebody watched Sienna versus Cisterna, let us know if Dzirlic got hurt, because I didn't hear about that, but I can't think of any other reason to pull your clearly best offensive player out of the match against the worst team in the league. They did, however, make a lot of changes in set 3. But for Sienna, we talked about Giulio Pinali going down. He had a significant ankle injury. He's done for the year. Federico Pereira came in off the bench and played great, but I'm not sure how sustainable that's going to be. And like Sam, they got a really good day out of both Van Garderen and Petric. Kind of like we said when they won last week. You can't bank on that being sustainable. But I did see a rumor.
This is what we said last week too about Van Garderen.
But listen to this.
And he's done the same thing.
Listen to this. I saw a rumor in the Discord that Sienna has gone out and tried to immediately replace Giulio Pinali in none other than a guy who we haven't heard of in international volleyball in at least 5 years, maybe closer to 10. Remember a Polish character by the name of Zbigniew Bartman? Remember Bartman? I think
he wants Bartman.
Bartman posted on Instagram today that he was flying to Italy. The rumors are strong that of all places, Sienna's going to go bring Zbigniew Bartman out of basically retirement, because I haven't heard of him since like the 2012 Olympics. They're going to go out and get Bartman to come back and play the second half of the year in Italy, which is amazing.
Oh wow, he is literally going to Italy right now.
There it is, yeah.
With volleyballs in his Bartman,
dude. I seriously, I haven't seen him or heard of him since I'm pretty sure it was 2012 Olympics.
For context, Bartman came out at the same time around Bartosz Kurek,
right.
And there was a lot of Polish people who thought that Bartman might be better than Kurek. He was a lot different player, and then he got some injuries. Like he was a small flyer. But man, if he could be even half the player what he was, I mean, maybe that still might be a lot to play in Superlega. Maybe I'm just remembering him like, some rosy memories of when I was a decade younger, but still.
My memory is the same. I have a memory of him being literally 10 years younger, but he was a baller back at the time, kind of like a Karol Butrin play type.
Mm-hmm.
But Sienna's goal is to not get relegated, and they're very much in the race to be successful in not getting relegated. So you bring in Bartman, if he steals you a match or maybe even a set here and there, that might be good enough. I mean, they're certainly not trying to make the playoffs. So I'm just kind of fascinated
to stay alive.
Right. Kind of fascinated to see Bartman again after all these years, if that is in fact what's going to happen.
Honestly, if I was Sienna, just call up Verona and be like, yo, you have a 7'2" lefty on your bench and Mads Ked Jensen. Can we borrow him for a little bit? Like, maybe that would work. I don't know if that's allowed, but hey. All right. We should move on to the women's Lega Volley Femminile, because not as spicy but still pretty. We had a couple big wins this week. Most notably, Novara going 3-2 over Scandicci. Scandicci still getting used to their new setter, but man, Novara actually looked pretty good in this one. Canigliano dropped a set, but I mean, after that, it was nothing doing. Firenze managed to come back and on the reverse swerp.
That's a new one.
The reverse sweep on Pinerolo, and then finally Bergamo all over Verona as Malone as they continue to fall in the standings. Rob, what do you want to start with? I almost called you Josh. This is getting weird.
Dude, you're struggling over there. Let's talk about Scandicci versus Novara, because it's the best match combined between the two teams. I assume there's still 2 and 3 in the standings. Actually, let's look at that. Yep, still 2 and 3 in the standings, but I agree with you. You mentioned that Scandicci still kind of getting used to the new setter situation with Di Yao coming in from China. More importantly, they have big foreigner limit problems. Yeah. Kind of in a similar way to what Malonza has, but I mean they couldn't even substitute out middles and setters, and like they had to keep doing a kind of a 6-2 thing with like DiIulio and Amtropova was one combo, and then Yao and Mingardi was the other, and they had to keep doing that because they couldn't change in just one of them because of the foreigner limit. Also important to point out that Brenda Castillo didn't play, and she's awesome, but like Scandicci, if they're fragile because of their foreigner situation. If they have one player that doesn't play well and they try to make a change, they're really, really badly handcuffed by the foreigner situation. So they're going to be fine because they have just outstanding talent across the board. But when something doesn't go right, seeing what they do about that is really interesting. And Everett, I think it's worth talking about. Is Zhu Ting an unclutch player? She was terrible in the 5th set in this match, despite being outstanding the rest of the way.
I think like clutchness is something that you have to practice, and let's be honest, she hasn't had many opportunities to practice and hasn't really been, especially playing she's been in the Chinese league for the past few years. She's not going to get really pushed there. She hasn't really been playing for the national team, and the Chinese national team hasn't really been that relevant of late either. I think it's that you kind of need to practice, and I'm not entirely sure how much opportunity she's had to practice recently.
Okay, fair enough, but I mean, she's been here all season. That's 16 matches down. Scandicci has been in situations like that. Like, I don't think we can be giving her that excuse anymore.
Yeah, I mean, maybe or maybe not, but at the end of the day, she scored 23 points, only a point behind Karakurt, where she only had 4 errors compared to Karakurt's 9, right? So maybe it's not so much to do to what she's doing and maybe what's going on around her a little bit more.
But she went 1 for 9 in the 5th. Like that's the difference to me, is that she had a good match until the 5th set.
Okay, yeah, because she scored 23. So what? Then she scored 22 points in sets 1 through 4 and carried this team. It sounds to me like she was tired, and that volleyball goes a little bit too long sometimes. Like I think you expect that. That's one thing about the emotional Karakurt. This we've seen her die late too.
Oh.
And would you call Karakurt unclutch? I mean, maybe I would, but she managed to get the job done today. Mackenzie Adams was absolutely fantastic. For them. I mean, Antropova
so is Antonesi, huge, like 19 points as a middle blocker.
Five blocks.
Amazing
as well. Was pretty good. Washington was pretty good for Scandicci, but they just need to get her the ball some more. And she only had 5 kills. That's not great. So to me, if I look at Scandicci, they just need to figure out their setter problems, and that's what they did. And it just didn't really, or that's what they tried to do, and it just hasn't worked out yet.
Yeah, and I think they'll get there. Speaking of setters, Carlota Cambi, new to Novara, looks pretty good. They went out and solved a couple of their problems, mostly just injury-based, in the middle of the season, and Novara's playing decently well, so good for them. I do want to talk about Bergamo beating Malonza, though.
Absolutely. 100%.
I'm high on this Bergamo team. Where are they on the standings right now? Let's see. Still 7th. And again, last year they were a point away from getting relegated. Like, they were bad. bad last year. And they went out and didn't even change overwhelmingly much. They got a new setter, Giulia Gennari, who was the backup at Conegliano. They got Federica Stufi in the middle, who's just kind of a good leader type. But this team's actually low-key, deep, and good. Khalil Lanier is having an amazing year. She's been really, really good. They've got 3 capable outsides, and then more and more, they have the Brazilian lefty named Lorena on the right side, whose leash is getting shorter because she sprays the ball out of bounds all the time. This one, they bring in Georgia Frosini off the bench, who was a Go News backup in Conegliano last year, and she was amazing. She was similarly good a couple weeks ago when I called one of their games. I mean, 15 for 39 off the bench is pretty damn good in the women's game. So big one for Bergamo, but I think it's become a weekly segment at this point. Malone's a figure it out.
Yeah, Lonza figure it out, man. We should add a little bit of branding for that and a title sequence, because you're right. Malonza
figure it out of the week, sponsored by Vero Volley Malonza. Can't even figure out their own name. Can't figure them out on the court either. Yeah,
they've lost their last 2 and they've just been kind of floating along. I mean, this is a team once again that was in the finals last year, and I don't know if they're going to be able to figure it out. If they just stuck with one, they'd be able to, but when you have that many good players, it's going to be impossible. Someone's going to get pissed off somewhere.
They even pulled Alessia Oro in this one, so things must really not have been going well. I mean, to bring in the backup setter is crazy. Jordan Thompson got pulled, then got put back in. Stevanovic got pulled. Miriam Silla got pulled. Like, this is an absolute revolving door for Malonza, and the thing that we make fun of them for literally all the time, sure enough, comes back to bite them against a good team, but definitely an inferior team, especially with like talent top to bottom considered.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, this is a team that is still solidly amongst the top four on the team. Like, if we look at the top 5 in the league, like, you look at the standings, there is a group of teams that is ahead above the rest, right? You see Chiaria, that like really that border there, those top 5 teams with 35 points. So Malonza still has some time to figure it out. For me, it's that who's going to be sitting 6 through 8, because all 3 of those teams have come up with some pretty big wins recently. But Firenze, I feel like, is getting a little bit hot. I feel
they went down 0-2 to Pinarolo. Pinarolo's terrible.
Yeah, but they didn't start Malinov, right? That's a big reason why they brought Malinov in, and they were able to pull off the reverse sweep. So what is she going to be able to do to help them push? I don't know. I think it might be too little too late from Firenze. And Britt Herbots hasn't been having the season that we were expecting from her. But still, I think it's going to be an interesting race down the stretch, because remember, like, we're not nearly as far along in the Women's Superlega season as we are in this men's the women's Lega volley season than the men's Superlega. So there's still plenty of time there.
Men's side's got only 6 matches left. The women's side has 10. So a lot more volleyball left to be played for sure. But I mean, I'm just excited for there to be some drama in terms of who makes the playoffs, because remember last year in the women's league, there was a massive drop off after team 8. Like, between 8 and 9 was like separated by 10 points. So
yeah,
there's absolutely no drama on who is going to make the playoffs. This year there will be, but again, very similar to the men's league, you do not want to be the 8th seed. You do not want to play Conegliano in the first round. Everybody else, even Scandici, Novara, obviously Malonza, they all have weaknesses. I would describe them all as beatable. I would not say the same about Conegliano. So making the playoffs isn't going to be good enough for a lot of these teams, because if you get 8th, you're just going to get a participation trophy. Thanks for participating. 2-0. See you later. But if you get in the 7th, or especially 6th, you can actually do some damage. So that's going to be the fun part to follow along with here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not as distinct as it is on the men's side with that top team from everyone else, but it's pretty damn close with Conegliano, who's just been running away with it.
Amazing. Comment in the chat. Imagine how much worse Malonza would be without Jordan Larson. Yeah, they would be even more clueless than they already are. I shudder at the thought.
Also, right back above that, Volleybox says Bartman is official.
But I can't wait to see that. All right, staying with Italian women's volleyball, let's talk about the Copa Italia, Everett, because the quarterfinals are this week. We actually had a game today, Conegliano against Cuneo, which was an absolute
slaughter.
It's just a beatdown. It wasn't even close. Set scores were like something like 12-19-12. Yeah, 12-19-12. I'm not even going to bother looking at stats or analyzing this thing at all, because it was that ridiculously lopsided. So good for Corneliano. They moved to the semifinals. But the other 3 quarterfinals are tomorrow. They're all at 2:30 Eastern, and I think they're all going to be pretty good. Novara versus Chieri, Scandicci versus Bergamo, and Malonza versus Castelmaggiore. I think all of those could be pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to kind of write them off, but looking at this one, there's upset potential across the board, right? Chieri's been not bad this weekend or this year. Bergamo has been good of late. They just came off a big win, and then Castelmaggiore as well has gotten some big wins, and Malonza has been struggling. So anything's possible, but Canigliano's going to win it all. Barring anything drastic, Canigliano's going to win it all.
Yeah, remember Castelmaggiore just beat Malonza like a week and a half ago. They beat him in 5, so I think that one's going to be pretty fun. Let's see what happened when Scandicci played Bergamo last. I don't know if I can find it. Scandicci beat him in 4, 3-1 in Bergamo. So Scandicci's got some good history there. Bergamo just picked up a huge win. Scandicci just lost to Novara. Novara versus Chieri, who knows? Maybe you get bad Abra character, maybe Chieri can steal it. So those are going to be good. I'm annoyed that they're all at the same time, and I'm annoyed that it's all part of a ridiculous day of volleyball tomorrow. So there's only so much we can do, only so much volleyball we can watch at one time.
Yeah, exactly. I think we will not be watching because there's a million other things going on. That's the sad reality of it.
That is a sad reality, but obviously we'll talk about it on next week's show. Anything else about Copa Italia women's or anything before we move on? But here's a photo of Corneliano moving on today. Great.
Lush is always at the center of the party, man.
I love her. She's so awesome. I wonder how. Let me look up the duration of this match. It's the only thing I actually care about. An hour and 9 minutes.
It's real close to an hour and shower.
Hour and shower.
I almost feel that you should give it to them, right? Because like the 9 minutes means that like what, there's 3 minutes between each set.
Yeah, that's just the break between sets.
And you're just gonna have a few timeouts in there. So that's an hour and shower. Let's give it to them as an hour and shower.
I'm gonna give it to them. I think anything under an hour 10 or maybe even hour 15, I think we can call it an hour and shower.
I think hour and shower should go on a t-shirt, Rob.
Well, you know where you can buy such things.
You can. And you know what, guys? We made a promise to everyone. We said that once we hit 10,000 subscribers on the YouTube and 1,000 members in the Discord, we would give you a deal, and that's exactly what we've done. So first and foremost, thank you to everyone who has followed this channel, the second iteration of this channel, and who has joined the Discord. So we thank you. We're going to give you all 50% off your entire purchase over at thatvolleyball.store. If you use the code SPICY, you get $25 off the entire thing. So make sure you guys go
$25.
Sorry, 20. I don't know why I don't know why I said $25 at all there. I'm just making things up as I go. Do as I've written and not as I say, okay? But you can go pick up some of the 9x9 gear. You can't pick up any of the VLA gear just yet. Maybe we can work some branding deal out with them, and we can sell some of the gear in the store. But make sure to check it out. You can get your 9x9 square geared, your spicy volleyball gear, and everything else that we sell. So go check that out. Use the code SPICY for 15% off.
Yep. Thank you all so much for getting us to 10,000 YouTube subscribers, 1,000 Discord members. We were looking at the numbers last week, and we're gonna get to that this weekend, like especially while we were in Austin, and we did. So cause for celebration and cause for a little sale on that volleyball.store. So code is SPICY, all caps, for 15% off. All right, Everett, what do you want to talk about next? Where do you want to go next?
Next, well, I mean, we already previewed the CEV Champions League for this weekend. As we said, you can go over and check that out with Mr. Eric Shoji on our YouTube channel, or that one's uploaded to Podbean as well. You can get it on all the audio podcasts.
I haven't put it up there, but I will. I can rip the audio from the show. But yeah, that was great. It was great to talk with Eric Shoji about all the chaos that is Week 6 of Champions League. But just as a quick overview, here's the matches for this week. This is the final week of the pool round, 4th round, whatever they're calling it these days. Unlike a lot of the weeks, it's not Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all Wednesday. All the matches on Wednesday, many of them at the same time. So Hawkbank versus Haybar first thing in the morning for us North Americans. But the real one that's going to determine a lot of the other seedings is Yashemski versus Friedrichshafen. That is noon Eastern on Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Do the math if you're in Europe. I think that's like 6 p.m. Central European time. That one's huge. Not because I'll be on the call, which I will, but because if JW wins 3-0, there's a great chance to get the number one overall seed in this bracket right here. And that's kind of going to be what teams are looking at going into their later matches is, does JW win 3-0 or does Hoffen take a set from them? I think that'll kind of influence a lot of the storylines the rest of the day. So if you want to hear the details, go listen to our chat with Eric Shoji. And Everett, we've got a little plan for tomorrow, don't we?
Yeah, well, luckily, if you want to watch that most important game of the day, yours truly, Mr. Rob St. Clair, will be on the call, so you don't have to suffer through it just because of someone's accent. But at the same time, I will be going live on this here YouTube channel. Honestly, not decided if I'm going to make it public or we're going to be members only yet. That we're going to have to decide on that. But I'm going to be doing a little bit of a live watch along because there's going to be so many games at the same time. We're going to need to figure things out. And once Rob is going to be done on his call, which honestly, the way JW has been playing, originally I would have called it like an easy hour and shower for JW, but JW has been all over the place. So is Friedrichshafen. So it's gonna be interesting. But once Rob is done on the call of that game, he's gonna come join us on our live stream, and we're gonna watch this one all the way through because we've got those are your times, right? So you've got games starting at Okay, so games start at noon, not at 11. That's a little bit later than I thought. That's nice. But we got games from
noon Eastern.
Yeah, noon, 12:30, 1 Eastern, noon, 1 o'clock, 1:30, 2, and then 2:30 Eastern time.
Yep, bunch of really good ones in there. I think the one must watch game is Berlin hosting Zawiercie. That is an absolutely enormous game. Remember, Berlin beat him in Poland last time. Trentino versus Zaksa would normally be must watch volleyball, but both of them are guaranteed to make it out of their pool, so it's not quite as spicy as it would normally be. And depending on JW's result, I really think there's a chance Trentino plays the bench. So yeah, we'll see. We'll talk about all that tomorrow during our little live stream. So follow along with Men's Champions League. Tomorrow is going to be an absolutely massive day.
And it'll be a even bigger day because of a match that we're not going to be able to watch, Rob. And I'm pissed about it. Last week on the show, we talked about one of the best games so far of 2023 was the week before when Lundberg upset Modena 3-2 at home in Lundberg. Now, we got to watch that game on sportdeutschland.tv. It was awesome. Now it goes to Italy. It's up to Modena to put on a stream, and we get nothing. We can't watch this game. It's like it's 1930 out here. Even worse, we have to wait till the newspaper the next damn day. What is going on? What is going on?
Insane. It's absolutely insane that the CEV insists on handling broadcasting the way that they do, and this is their fault. It is the CEV's fault for enforcing a certain standard of broadcast for every game, no matter what. It's got to be elite, top tier professional production quality, no matter what. And Sport Deutschland, they footed the bill to broadcast that game in Lundberg. But Modena is refusing to do so, and neither is the CEV. And so just because you can't broadcast it to the most elite professional standard means apparently that we can't watch it at all, which is absolutely insane. It was one of the most dramatic games of the year 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago. One of the most dramatic games of the year. All sorts of spice on and off the court. There was we got some DMs. The 9x9 Instagram account. We had a little dialogue with the Lundberg Instagram account, talking about some very interesting allegations that they made against Modena's club, not fulfilling obligations, being unprofessional, being horrible sports. All the drama in the world, and we can't watch
be embarrassed. I just think Modena doesn't want to be embarrassed, right? Like, seriously, you're one of the most legendary volleyball clubs in the world, and you can't foot the bill for one broadcast for the CEV Cup? It should be mandated. How is this not mandated? Right? Like, it's absolutely ludicrous that this is the case on one side, but then the second side, like, figure it out, CEV. You're running, most of your streams are terrible anyways.
Right.
You want 80 million cameras, but they all stream on 720. Once again, the standards are like the bare minimum and we can't figure it out. It's just so frustrating. But I have learned that certain friends of the show, let's say, have reinforcements on the ground in Modena, and that maybe a certain Instagram account will be, providing some live updates. So we will be watching that closely. I don't want to go out and say it because I don't want them to get.
No.
Like everyone knows who we're talking about. If you're
Yeah.
watching this, you know who you're talking about. Unless you're a boomer in a trench coat, and then you're desperately trying to figure it out. And I promise you won't. But yeah, so we're gonna keep close tabs on that. And you know what? If there's any type of, even if it's a brief live component, let's say, you'll be able to find it on during our live stream. So we're going to be monitoring that closely throughout the match. And the best place to get all the commentary and maybe find out what's going to be going on will be on our stream tomorrow.
Yeah, it legitimately will be. It's like the actual only place you'll be able to follow along with this online, which is so stupid. Join the Volleyball Source Discord, obviously. That is a no-brainer at this point. But if you are wondering what we're talking about, we might be able to tell you in there. Speaking of CEV Cup, by the way, Everett, I think it's important to remind people of a discovery that we made a couple weeks ago about the redone format of that tournament, which I just kind of stumbled upon digging through some things. If as Everett just chokes and dies over north of the border there, geez, dude. So as we're talking about Champions League, like to go back to the Champions League bracket, you see there's that one third place team that makes it out of their pool in Champions League. Of the 5 pools, five teams will finish third in their pool. One of them will make it out. The other 4 who don't make it out actually drop down to the CEV Cup, which is new this year. I think our friend Blair Lambert was saying that it was how it used to be back in the day. But so like the teams in Champions League that get third in their pool but don't advance are going to drop down and play CEV Cup. And that might produce some interesting matchups. Like Piacenza is still in. I think Skra is still in. Obviously Modena and Lundberg, and I can't remember who the other one is. But there's going to be a decent little injection of some quality teams into CEV Cup after the main round of Champions League is over.
Well, guess what? If that one's not streamed, I don't care, because it should be. Okay, CEV, figure your shit out. I just choked on some tea there. It wasn't a good deal.
All right, so that's it for Men's Champions League. We already covered it in significant depth with Eric Shoji, so go watch that show if you want more, and we'll see you on tomorrow's watch along. Let's talk about Women's Champions League, Everett, because they had their week 4 last week as they continue to try and catch up in the schedule. And the first match I want to talk about is this one.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason I want to talk about it's Zaja Basha beating Maritza Plovdiv, a team from Bulgaria, is because this was the CEV's super match of the week. Of all the matches that you could have possibly chosen to feature and just particularly spotlight if you're the CEV, why would you pick one that produces a set score of 25-5? 25-5. That is not a typo. It's Zaja Basha beat Plovdiv in the third set, 25-5. That is absolutely embarrassing. That is a bad product, and you should not be promoting that, CEV. And it's not like it's the first time that Plovdiv has been embarrassing in Champions League. They win the Bulgarian League every year for the last 20 years, and they never win a Champions League game. Figure it out. That is bad volleyball. That is a bad product. Do not promote that. Show another better game instead, like this one. Potsdam upsetting VakifBank.
We're going to talk a little bit about VakifBank here because they have had a rough week, both in the Champions League and then back in the Superlega League. But yeah, let's start with this one first and foremost. And I'm starting to believe in the Agonu curse, where just kind of make everything wilt around her. And it's so weird to see because I don't see, usually when this happens, you can see the toxicity around one player kind of immerse themselves with the rest, but you don't see that with Agonu. She seems like to be a really good teammate, so I don't understand why it happens. And she was all right in this one, 21 for 44, but with 8 errors. That's pretty big, and just is VakifBank just not looking good right now, not looking the team. This is the team that won everything last year, adding the best player and somewhat coming out as a lesser team. So
they thought that they could sleep on Potsdam and not play the starters. I think that's definitely a problem. Gabi did not play. I think somebody in the Discord might have said that she got tweaked something in warm-ups maybe, and they thought they could win in without her, so they didn't play her. that obviously didn't work out very well. Egonu's error rate was a huge problem. I tuned in halfway through this match last Wednesday because I expected VakifBank to take care of Potsdam no problem, and then it was getting a little interesting. I watched the fifth set. Egonu made some unforgivably bad hitting errors in big situations, totally unforced, just wild balls hit out of bounds that you just, if you're a player that commands that level of respect and salary and everything that comes with Pella Egonu, you just cannot make those mistakes. And she made those mistakes. And I mean, credit to Potsdam because they played amazing. But I really think that this is VakifBank sleeping on a team that they should not have slept on.
But they slept on a team and then got reverse swept.
That's bad.
That to me is
really bad.
kind of the biggest indicator, because that's probably why you didn't see Gabi, because you walked through them in the first two sets, and by that time she's cold on the bench. To me, when I see stuff like this, and maybe the same thing with Wu Ting and Karakurt, it just kind of reminds me that volleyball is a really long game, right? We expect like anaerobic athletes to play almost like an aerobic type of game, right? You are jumping every time you jump, there's a blocking or a hit. You are max jumping. You're going all out, and just once you get into these long five setters, that what was the Hulkbank versus Zavieci game was like
it was 3 hours,
minutes shy of 3 hours. Yeah. That's ridiculous. Like that's absolutely insane when you look at how long a volleyball game is compared to what type of action they're doing. And I really think maybe we're looking at games that are just too long, and that's why we're seeing just the level of game deteriorate, especially later on.
I don't like that take. I think that the longer a game goes, the better it gets. It gets more fun. It encourages conditioning. It encourages depth. It encourages digging deep and giving everything that you've got in the tank to win a match. Volleyball's been best of 5 for its entire history. It's been best of 5 rally scoring for almost 25 years. It's not the time to start complaining about how long games are. If you're going to complain about how long a game is, don't get reverse swept by Potsdam being one of the best teams in the world. Finish it out in 3. If you don't complain about how long games are if you're going to get reverse swept.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tough to see, but VakifBank has some things to figure out, because they followed this stinker up with another big 5-set loss to Fenerbahce in the Superlega League. And you know what? Which one's worst? First and foremost, which one's worse in your experience? I think losing to Fenerbahce in the Superlega League, that's their second loss against that team, a team that hasn't been having a great season either. That's been up and down. I think losing to Fenerbahce is much worse.
I don't. I mean, losing to Potsdam is clearly worse. Fenerbahce has got way more talent than Potsdam does. I mean, I know Fenerbahce has struggled lately, but their top level talent and overall team playing ability is way higher than Potsdam's, especially VakifBank at home going up 2-0. You cannot get reverse swept in a Champions League game like that. And yeah, it's not a good look to lose to Fenerbahce, but they've got Melissa Vargas back now. Sometimes they catch lightning in a bottle and have a good day from all their players at once, but that's not nearly as embarrassing of a loss as Potsdam is.
Yep, I mean, I maybe disagree, but we'll see.
Also, I don't know. Why can't I find the stats from VakifBank Fenerbahce? Why can't I?
No, I don't know either. Did this not happen? Did we just make it up? No, I swear.
I'm pretty sure that happened.
What are the Turkish people in our chat saying right now?
Yeah, Flash Score doesn't have it, but I could have sworn that match happened. It wasn't like
I thought I swore that I showed you a scorecard from it on Saturday night when we were out together.
I think you did. Huh. We might have just invented a game. I mean, it wasn't in
we may have.
It wasn't in the Turkish Cup. I'm looking at that. Obviously it wasn't in the Super Cup. Like, what happened here?
I don't know.
let me click on VakifBank here and see if it tells us. Most recent all results. We might have invented a game just now.
Oh, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I wonder what happened here.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I don't. Dude, that's so weird because I remember seeing a post about them losing in 5 to Fenerbahce. Maybe that was like an all the way throwback to the Super Cup back at the beginning of the year that just like showed up in your Instagram feed for some reason. What
Yeah.
happened there?
Okay. I don't know, but I thought I saw that. I don't
Yeah,
know. All right.
I
Let's.
thought we saw it too. I think we just invented a game. VakifBank definitely did lose to Potsdam, so that one is confirmed. That one did happen. But
All right.
I
Let's
guess we
just
just
eliminate
invent.
that.
I guess we just invented a game. That's pretty funny.
Sorry about that. I'll take the blame because I showed Rob that score.
Oh man,
Quite possibly.
we're getting to
But
inventing games now that didn't happen. Boy, are we
I
struggling.
mean, this did happen potentially on Saturday, and we were struggling on Saturday. So
That was
that kind of,
yeah, that was a little bit later. Other things from Women's Champions League Week 4 matches that we can confirm did in fact happen. Speaking of Fenerbahce, they rebounded and beat Stuttgart, who they lost to last time, kind of keeping their chances alive of probably not winning their pool in Champions League, but at least like making it out of the playoffs. So good for them. Chemik Police, who fired their coach a couple weeks ago, needed 5 to beat this Targoviste team. I don't know where they're from, maybe like Romania or something like that. But the weird part about this was like the spread in set scores that I saw. Like Targoviste won the fourth, 25-13, and then Police rebounded in the fifth and won it 15-4. So
I did see that.
I
Yeah,
just don't understand what like how a game can be that lopsided.
betting.
And yeah, Targoviste is a Romanian team. I guessed correctly on that one.
All right. Well, the next big week for Women's Champions League is next week.
Right. Yeah,
Correct.
it's not this week. It's next week, like January 31st, Feb 1st, Feb 2nd. So
Yeah, and that'll be week number 5. So still 2 more weeks to go in the Women's Champions League.
yep. All right. Where do you want to go next? We got to do Polish
Bundesliga.
men briefly. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, let's talk about the Bundesliga. Couple things. One was one of the matches of the year that I hope we can give the attention it deserves. Warszawa versus Skra Belkotov. That was ridiculous. 3-2 Warszawa wins. They've continued a really nice rebound after a rough start to the year. 27-25 in the fifth. 27-25 in a game to 15 is something that I don't know if I've ever seen before. That's crazy.
No, that is pretty intense. But Warszawa looking good blocking. 25 blocks overall, 11 points that resulted in that. They were big up there. Linus Weber, 24 points. He was 23 for 35, which with a 54% efficiency, that's not bad from the German. Those are some numbers that we haven't seen from the likes of him in a long time. So that's a big win for Warszawa. And they have a big bounce back season from what was almost like they finished on the outside of the playoffs last year. This year, they are solidly in there. So big ups to Warszawa. But on the other side, that was like one of the first like signs of life we've seen from Skra Belkotov, but they're not in serious jeopardy of not only are they in serious jeopardy of not making the playoffs, but it's almost like a certainty at this point, right? Like if you look at them, like they are a good 5 points behind Nisa, but like Lublin is good. I put Slepska ahead of them. Like I think Skra right now is appropriately ranked. I mean, Filippo Lanza, you might have good hair, but you can't ball anymore, bro.
Dude, they gave Filippo Lanza
26
yeah, on 43 attempts. They are in a sad mess of affairs to be getting
but his
Filippo
efficiency was
Lanza.
49%.
Yeah, that's pretty darn good. But I mean, what combination of events has to transpire where the best option for your team is to give Filippo Lanza 43 balls? Remember when he played at Perugia? They literally wouldn't set him in the front court. He was so useless as a front court attacker that they would run Wilfredo Leon out of position 5 instead of setting Lanza in position 4. How do you go from that to taking 43 swings for Skra Belkotov?
Because you're paying Alexander Anastasievich a lot of money to be your star right side, who doesn't even sniff the court. So you have Lucas Vecina on the right side, and I mean he's pretty good, but at the end of the day, you need Lanza to be good. And I mean Lanza was good, and I feel like you those old men have those random good old games where they're feeling like they're 20 again, can have that bounce. But I promise you, he's gonna be bad in his next game.
Yeah, it was Vecina at outside hitter. This Victor
Oh, sorry.
Musial character that I have never heard of started opposite and played terribly. But yeah, credit to Varshava. It's good to see Linus Weber healthy. I know he's been really struggling to stay on the court due to injury this year. This Jakub Kowalczyk character came out of nowhere in the middle, and everybody was obsessed with how well he played. So good for him. I know that Arthur Schalpuk's having a great year. This wasn't his best match. Kevin Tilley was pretty good. So crazy one, 27-25. Obviously is going to grab some attention. Another team that's been steadily climbing up the standings is Olsztyn. Rough start of the year for them. They're back into playoff position at 7th, but unfortunately, in their win this week, Josh Tuaniga, their starting setter, and good American boy. I'm a big fan of his. He fell weirdly on his elbow and injured it significantly, had to have surgery pretty much immediately, and is out for somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 weeks. So there's a very good chance that his club season is over, and I don't know how much we can really rely on him for the national team level, depending on his recovery. But really tough break for Olsztyn to lose the engine of a very good offense. So our best wishes to Josh as he recovers from, I think it was an elbow. I think elbow surgery is what he had to have.
So real quick, if we're going to just shift to the American Team USA focus, and Rob, I'll ask you this question. Who do you go for your next setter? Because there's kind of 3 options there. One, you can go to Micah Ma'a, who in my book is hands down the next best guy, but has showed some reluctancy to want to play for Team USA, specifically said no last summer to play grass with the out-of-system boys. And I feel like the way that things are going for them, they would do that again, right? 2, you can go to an older guy who's been on the roster, played some VNL, is having a decent year over at Hershing in James Shaw, or you go for the young gun in Quinn Isaacson, who's been having a fantastic year and turning some things around for Saint Nazaire in the French league. Who would you go with?
I think it's Micah Ma'a's job if he wants it. You got to at least try and get him back in the gym with the way his club career has gone, just on a hugely upward trajectory. It's been obviously had a great year with Halkbank Conqueror, as we've talked about. Got to try and get him back in the gym if you can. If you miss out on him 2 summers in a row, that might be it. That legitimately might be it for his national team career. So if you're Spera, that is all on you to go get your former UCLA player back in the national team gym. But past that, I would prefer them give Quinn Isaacson more time than James Shaw, just because of their age. Obviously, significantly different play styles, but you saw Quinn Isaacson in person at Pan Am. You were really impressed by the offense that he ran. I really like what I've seen from him too. James Shaw is a completely different type of player. We've talked about his career before, but he's my age. He's 28, probably 29 by now. There's not that much, like, for the long term, that move doesn't make sense. For the long term, getting Isaacson in the gym makes a lot more sense. But ideally, I would just like Tuaniga to recover and get healthy in time for probably Olympic qualifiers, and that should be doable, but Nations League is probably going to be a little iffy.
But they're saying like 8 to 10 weeks, right? So that's completely doable to even get back to Nate for Nations League when we're talking about June.
I don't know if it was 10 to 12, and I don't know if that's like to be ready to play volleyball again. I think that's like post surgery to get mobility back, to try and do PT. Like I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I didn't do the surgery. I don't know anything about it. But until I hear otherwise, I'm thinking that we might need a different second setter for VNL. I don't know.
Fair enough. All right. I would definitely go with Quinn Isaacson myself, because I don't think Ma'a is going to say yes. I think he's going to want to ball out with the out-of-system boys and play some grass tournaments. I think they're already talking about announcing their summer plans. So that just leads me to believe that neither of those 3 will be involved with the Team USA system. And I think Quinn Isaacson has balled out a lot. One thing I do want to touch up just on the Plus Liga, we also talked about one other game, the Red Hot Lublin taking on Zawiecki, who's been one of the top teams this year. No Nick Surgeon in Lublin for this one, and Lublin falls 3-1 to Zawiecki, who kind of gets things going on a roll. 20 points for Juros Kovacevic, 13 for Bartosz Kolek, and they're still up at the top of the standings, but Lublin has really turned things on of late.
Yeah, they're where are they at? Ninth? Just barely out of playoff position. So Szczerzen, it was a minor shoulder soreness is what I heard. So hopefully he'll be back soon. Jastrzębski beat Nysa. I mean, those 2 teams are pretty good. Gdansk beat Zaksa. We did talk to Eric Shoji a little bit about that the other day. Gdansk is good. Rasovia looks amazing. Katowice looks terrible. Barkom Lviv looks pretty good. The Ukrainian team, they're definitely not going to get relegated, so good for them. And then I wanted to plug the podcast you did with Dalton Sanoski of Bielsko-Biała the other day. They're definitely going to get relegated, but it was cool to hear you chat with a Canadian boy.
Hey, I mean, yes, if you haven't checked it out, go check out the podcast with the only Canadian boy in the Plusliga, the beauty from Saskatchewan, Mr. Dalton Sanoski. So if you're a Canadian fan, if you're just a general Plusliga fan, there's going to be a lot of good things. He praises the Plusliga. He loves it over there. But I still believe in them. Radom isn't that good. You know what? They actually have the same record as them. They've had some setter issues throughout the year, and now they're starting to figure some things out. So I have faith that they're going to be able to turn some things around over there.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I just remembered another kind of piece of transfer news that we should talk about. So we've talked about Berlin. We know that Berlin's starting setter Angel Trinidad got hurt earlier this year. He's now back, and the guy who they brought in just kind of sit there in the gym was Arash Dosanjh, the tall Australian setter. So now that Angel Trinidad is back, they've got him and Johannes Tila. Arash Dosanjh is actually moving on to Bielsko-Biała. So he's going to go to the Plusliga and try to help them not get relegated. So
100%. And I mean, remember, this is a team that they have Jake Haynes, so you know that they've got a bit of firepower out there, and also had Jan Zimmerman at the beginning of the season, who's now been balling out in Monza. So this is a team that was expecting to have a much different setter situation.
Pierre Pujol as well.
They did have Pierre Pujol as well. So now they're on to their third international level setter, and that's Arash Dosanjh. So yeah, like this is a team that I don't know. I believe in them. Once again. Dalton does a great job breaking that down for us in my chat with him from last week.
They have Jake Haynes. I don't believe in them. Enough said. Someone asking, is it true Micah Christensen extended his contract with Zenit Kazan? Yes, that is true. Him and Daru are both sticking around there. Our friend Agata says Stefan Boyer, after being awesome, is back to his usual self. He signed with Resovia and stopped playing well. That is the rumor that Boyer is going to go to Resovia next year, but we knew that him having like 50% efficiency on the season couldn't last for long. He loves hitting errors way too much to keep that up.
Yeah, 100%. Real quick, guys, if you're still watching, can you guys give this video a like? We're an hour and a half in. We've only got 13 likes. There's over 40 of you watching. We've had over 200 people tune in. Like, just if you like what we do, just give us a like. And if you don't, come back later and tell us in the comments, because we could really use those comments as well for.
Well, we invented a match tonight that didn't happen, so I think that's
true.
Definitely worth complaining about. But give us a thumbs up at least for our creativity.
Do we now that we're talking about some transfers? Oh yeah, we should talk about this
too.
Okay, great. Let's jump into this instead of some transfers.
Yeah, we can do that at the end of the show. Yeah, we had somebody bring up earlier that the only good game in the Turkish League this past weekend was this one. It's Eczacıbaşı beating THY in 5-15-13. By far the closest Eczacıbaşı has come to actually losing a game this year. And they do survive. Let me pull up the stats right now. But how's your girl Kira Van Rijk?
It looks like she was all right in this one. 21 points, 19 for 53. Not the best percentage, but damn, who's Madison Rochelle?
Yeah, Maddie Kingdon.
Or Maddie Kingdon.
That's Maddie Kingdon who changed
32 points, 29 for 55 with 3 blocks and no aces, but still 32 points for Maddie Kingdon. That's
I've never known her. That's incredible. I've never known her to be a scorer. Like, that's a ridiculous scoring output. 29 for 55, like, and more attempts than Van Rijk. That's incredible.
Yeah, I've honestly never heard of her before this, and I mean, she's played some pretty good places. Played for Arizona, but yeah, that seems to me like it was a bit of a uncharacteristic output from Maddie Kingdon, or Madison Rochelle as it's on her volley box, because damn, they push one of the best teams in the league hard.
The only undefeated team in the league, and they still are. But somebody pointed out, I think last show or in the Discord somewhere, how ridiculous Eczacıbaşı's set ratio was this year. I think they'd only lost like something like 1 set on the year. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were like 42-1 in sets before this, and they do come very, very close to losing a game, but not quite. Tiana Bošković, 31 for 64. Only 4 errors. Like, that's actually a really good match on crazy high volume.
Yeah, I still am absolutely convinced that she's the best player in the world right now. She's just so good, and she's got such a good arm. She's so dominant. I love watching her play. And you know what? More people should watch her play. It's almost too bad that she's in the Turkish Liga, just because like I think like volleyball world needs to go out and get the Turkish League, because
Yeah, we've said it several times. I completely
like
agree.
like the Plus Liga already has a great product, but the Turkish Liga outside of Turkey needs to be on Volleyball World. It would be amazing just to be able to watch that, because it is hands down the second. It is arguably the best league in the world, but definitely at least the top two.
Oh yeah, I'll still put it second. Like I always say, the bad teams in Turkey are way worse than the bad teams in Italy. But the top level, I mean, Eczacıbaşı could easily go out and win Champions League, and I don't think it would really surprise anyone. So good for them for surviving their biggest challenge so far of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we want to close things off with a few college notes here?
Yeah. So check out all of our videos from the weekend of Everett and I being in Austin for the First Point Collegiate Challenge, an NCAA men's event that was very, very fun to watch and be at.
Yeah.
There was some good ball played, and we got to talk to all 4 coaches of Stanford, Pepperdine, Penn State, and Lewis, and all those interviews. I actually clipped them out separately and uploaded them separately, so they're easy to find here on the channel. Go listen to what the coaches had to say. Go watch the highlights of the matches if you can find them anywhere. God forbid Volleyball World's not going to post them. But it got me excited about NCAA men's volleyball for the It got me excited about NCAA men's volley for the first time in a while. Somebody pointed out in the chat earlier, and a good point, that Penn State plays Long Beach State tomorrow night, which is a huge game, 4 versus 3. I really liked watching it. I liked the level. I liked talking to the coaches. I'm more in tune on the storylines now, and the rest of the non-con season is actually going to be pretty fun. There's still some of the West Coast and rest of the U.S. overlap happening where good non-conference games are going to be played. So check that out. And the one resource, as people always ask, the one resource for NCAA men's volleyball is Off the Block. Offtheblockblog.com is a must follow. You've got to go there. They post something every single day on all the matches
Vinny
that are
Lopes
happening.
Yeah, man.
Vinny Lopes is
Vinny
the man.
Lopes.
Every day they post every match that's happening and a link to the live stream for every game. So don't ask us in the Discord where you can watch NCAA men's. Go to offtheblockblog.com. I'm going to put that in the live chat right there. Right now.
Yeah, real quick, to watch the Penn State versus Long Beach match, it is going to be on the Big Ten Network Plus, which looks like you need to pay for it. So
service, yeah, not
And
surprising.
the only things are Conference Pass. There's no men's volleyball in the Big Ten Conference. School Pass. Like I guess you'd be paying all of that for just Penn State men's volleyball. I mean, if you're a Penn State fan in general, you could, or the Sport Pass, which once again, there's no men's volleyball for the Big Ten Plus. So that's too bad, but it is what it is.
Yeah, so it was cool to be there in Austin. It's cool to hang out with Everett. Obviously, we had maybe a little too good of a time at certain points.
Us? No, definitely not.
Very fun, and it kind of reignited my enthusiasm for NCAA men's. So I was excited about that.
Big shout out to Wade Gerard and the team over at First Point for putting on that event and for having us. We're excited to work with him further in the future and at next year's event. And yeah, it was just a good time. It was good to see it in play. And I mean, I'm already going to Canadian, both college and university, both CCAA and U Sport Nationals are going to be just here in Ontario. So maybe we just go to NCAAs and I just do the trifecta.
I think we should. It's at George Mason in Virginia. I think that they were supposed to host it the COVID year that got canceled. So they get to host it this year. I doubt that Mason's going to make it out of the EIVA because of how good Penn State is, but it'll be a cool, different spot to host the Natty, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%.
Will the Big Ten pick up men's volleyball when USC and UCLA join? Probably not. They're still not going to have enough teams. It's only going to be 4. They would need like a Stanford to move conferences, which is possible. I've heard rumblings about that. But there still needs to be, I think, at least 6, maybe even 8. And I don't see that happening anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah. Also, Aussie Tragic, I do think that the Drunk Cast will be not only a next year thing, but a recurring thing whenever we get together, which is going to be a lot this summer. So you're bound to get a few other Drunk Casts in 2023. So that's just going to be another membership to another reason to jump on the membership of the channel, because that's where you can not only see this past Drunk Cast, but also the Drunk Cast from Vienna, Ottawa, which is
That
probably
was a great
much of
one.
the same. Rob intently ranting and me being completely, gone out of my mind.
And Dan was there too. The only thing I remember from Dan being there was that he kept forgetting to talk into the microphone, and like he was holding it like down in his lap, and you just couldn't hear anything you said. But
What a
that's
noob.
it's kind of the charm of the Drunk Cast. Like when Everett trips over our cables and breaks my USB bank, and we have to switch audio sources halfway through the show on Saturday night.
Yeah, that did happen. But even in my having been up for 24 hours and mangled state, I was still remembering to put the mic to my mouth. So that's point for me and -1 for Dan.
Congratulations, buddy. All right. Do we have anything else
Thank
we
you.
need to cover before we get the people out of here? We'll talk to everyone tomorrow on the watch along about Champions League. It's a huge day, but is that about it for now?
Yeah, I think that's a bit about it for now. Tune in at noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 Central. What is it? 10 Mountain? Yeah, we went through all of them to check out our
6 p.m. Europe time is when we're
6
starting the watch along.
6 p.m. Europe time. It's just going to be us hanging out, talking about a few things. First, it's going to be me, and then Rob's going to join once he's done his broadcast, and we're going to figure out who's going to go on for Men's Champions League. But until then, thanks for checking it out. Remember to head over to thatvolleyball.store and use the code SPICY to get 15% off of your entire order. And we will see you tomorrow or next week.
See you, people. Thanks for watching.